Wait. It was the story of a young man who was a senior in high school, 6 weeks away from graduation, had just celebrated or attended his prom, and he and his sister came home for lunch. They both attended Southwest High School, and they came home, and in so doing, and coming home for lunch, which they were allowed to do, they interrupted a burglary in progress. And he told his sister to go wait at the house next door and hide, and he went in to confront the burglars. And he called 911, dropped the phone in his pocket. And his sister, contemporaneous with that, also called 911. The victim, who became the victim, confronted the burglars, and one of them had a gun and shot him in the back of the head. The sister, seeing the two burglars leave, then came into the house and basically held her brother. And he basically, for all intents and purposes, died in her arms. They were both charged with murder, and they were both certified to stand trial as adults. And in the process of the investigation, it wasn't for several months that the police discovered, in going through the victim's clothing, the second 911 call. If you could ever imagine the sound of someone's heart breaking, that's what you hear. So we tried the case, and we could never tell who was the shooter at the time, because while we did have the sound of the two burglars on the recording, we didn't know who was who. So we didn't know who actually pulled the trigger. So we tried the first individual, and the defense had dressed him up in a polo and khaki pants, and he looked very respectable. We were able to tell the jury all of the things that he had done leading up to this moment. And we told the jury, we don't know who's responsible ultimately for pulling the trigger. And the jury ultimately, they pled guilty to the jury, and the jury ultimately gave him a life sentence.
Broderick Patterson got life in prison for murdering Eric Forrester, a high school honor student who was shot and killed when he interrupted a burglary in his home in 2010.
And so this young man, after being dressed the part with the polo and the khaki pants, got up and went immediately into gang speak. Cussed out the courtroom, cussed out the jury, cussed out the judge, cussed out the prosecution, and it was all captured on film.
All y'all jury, all y'all, all y'all state, all y'all hoes.
Then this, more drama as the family spilled out into the hallway when we offered Patterson's family and friends a chance to give their reaction. Instead, one of them assaulted Fox 4 photographer Paul Bean.
Man, will you get that camera out of my face, man? I'm not gonna kill you.
I remember being asked by the news later on what I thought about it. And I thought,
I hate to say that I'm grateful that he reacted that way, but I am grateful that the jury got to see the real Broderick Patterson. I think he demonstrated exactly who we believed and who the evidence showed he was.
we had a 911 call with the shooter, his accomplice, and Eric Forrester's voice, but we had nothing with which to compare it to. In the days following the trial, I remember I literally sat up in bed one morning and realized with Broderick Patterson's outburst, we now had a voice exemplar. We compared that with the 911 call and learned Broderick Patterson was the shooter. As a trial attorney, you really have to keep your emotions in check. For the vast majority of my trials, that's not been difficult. You really kind of compartmentalize your emotions, and you have to. I mean, it's no different probably than a doctor performing surgery. You have to be able to set aside your own personal feelings. You just mentally have to check yourself. But there was something about his sister testifying, and it still chokes me up. Just the thought of his sister cradling his body as the color left him.